All right, I'm here with Tony, the real estate guy, and today we want to talk about things that sellers should think about when they're thinking about selling a home. One of the big things I know is just engaging in a real estate professional early on. Tony, why would a home seller want to talk to you, like, let's say 6 to 9 months before they're ready to put their house on the market? Why is that important?
Well, one, depending on when they're going to put their house on the market. I mean, do they have the type of house that's going to show well in the spring? Do they have a lot of flowers and that kind of thing? And so is the exterior of the house just as important as the interior of the house? Do they have a pool? I mean, obviously, sparkling water pool in the backyard is a big seller for some people. Some people not so much, but it always looks pretty in the pictures. That's for sure.
Right, right. So you really, other than just kind of deciding on the right time frame to sell, which is super important, why, when you go out to a house early on and talk to a seller, is that important to the seller as they're preparing the home?
Well, certain things like I've had people say, should I repaint the inside of my house because it's looks like a box of crayons in there. They got different colors in every room, and sometimes that might be the right thing to do. Sometimes it might just be as simple of everything that you have in there looks nice, and you just need to clean it up, like the baseboard. I mean, really run a cloth across all the baseboards so the trim looks nice and still pops. And because you might like certain colors and think that that's the right thing to do, and then the other person that moves in is like, oh God, now I gotta paint the whole inside of the house.
Right, right.
So you've done it for nothing.
Right. What about upgrades? How can you help sellers in deciding on what upgrades to do and what not to do?
So obviously kitchens and baths sell houses. I mean, it's what everybody loves.
But do you always get a positive return on that investment?
No, and that's what I was about to say, is that I've had clients say, I've got the old brown cabinets with Formica countertops, should I upgrade all this stuff? And I'm like, well, it kind of depends. It's really a case-by-case basis, and you just got to make the determination of, if I invest $20,000, am I going to get $40,000 in return? If you're only going to get your $20,000, then not so much. Why bother? Why bother? And again, you might install something that somebody else doesn't want. So maybe you're better off leaving it at the lower price, knowing they're getting it as is, and then the person buying the house knows, I'm going to invest $20,000, but I'm going to get the kitchen that I want.
Right. So it also probably matters who their competition is, correct?
Like other houses,
other homes for sale.
Right, depending on the neighborhood you are, or if you're in an older neighborhood, well, then all the houses are probably going to be the same unless they've done the upgrades along the way. So
right, and some people have certain budget concerns, especially in markets where the interest rates are on the higher side now compared to last year.
Right.
So in some cases, they might absolutely love to have $40,000 additional into the home for a kitchen upgrade, but it doesn't mean they can afford it right now.
Right.
So sometimes being in the lower price point is actually going to bring you a better return than if you put that $40,000 kitchen in and try to sell it at a $60,000 higher price.
Right.
That's where sometimes upgrades do not pay off.
Exactly.
So what else do you look for when you go to meet a seller for the first time, just to kind of help them prepare their heads for, what do I need to do to get my home ready for sale?
Obviously, the one thing is decluttering. I mean, we all live every day in a house. You got magazines on the counter. You got, every appliance you ever wanted to use across the countertops in your kitchen. When you're actually ready to sell the house, those are kind of things you want to maybe even just get a rental, a storage rental unit for a month. It costs you a couple $100 if you got like a 10 by 20. I think they're $200 a month. But you can put all that stuff in there, so your house is showing the house itself, not all your personal items and everything else. And it's easier for other people to envision what the house will look like with their stuff in it if there's nothing in it, as opposed to crammed with all your stuff in it.
Right. Is there a point where, like, you could have too little of stuff in the home? Like we've seen vacant homes, and oftentimes they don't look homey. So is there a point of where you've gone too far?
Yeah, because you do want to show kind of how, like, say, the living room's going to lay out, where the couch would be, where the TV would be, or whatever. Believe it or not, we were building a house, and we're doing a final walkthrough with a client, and they had this particular living room that they really loved. And there was a big cased opening that went into the dining area, and while we're standing there, I pointed out to them, I'm like, you know, this is your living room, your formal living room. I said, but between the staircase that's coming down, the windows on the front of the house, the windows on the side of the house, in this cased opening, I said, you have no place for furniture, like nowhere. So we ended up closing in that cased opening,
Oh,
and she
wow.
was like, thank God you pointed that out. I would have never even thought about it until it was too late.
Right, and that just brings up the point that, you know, we're being in the business every day. Tony and I, we understand how to visualize what a room would look like, but most people can't, especially if they're buying their first home or second home. It's just hard to not see a room without furniture. So there's a point where you can declutter and minimize, but there's a point where you can go too far as well.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's important for Tony to help you with that. So if you want to get a hold of Tony, how do they get a hold of you if they're thinking about selling and having you come over sometime between the time that they're thinking about selling and the time that they're ready?
Feel free to give me a call anytime. I mean, I do this full time, so it's not like I'm not available. Give me a call, 774-230-5021, or feel free to stop by my page. It's TonyTheRealEstateGuy.com.
All right. Thanks, Tony. See you on the next segment.
Absolutely.